So that brings a big smile on the other end of the phone. They say, "Oh, we'll have to bring you in." So silver linings can be found in a lot of areas. And for the job seekers, John, that you're trying to help now, I think the job seeker needs to realize that there are silver linings right now. I mean, this isn't kind of goofball, motivational, foo-foo stuff now, but I mean, you should, as a job seeker, be able to increase and improve your skill sets while you're in the job search. So you can walk into the interview and say to your recruiter, and I really do believe this is important, I'm a better candidate now than the day I left my job, let's say 3-4 months ago. And the reason why is because in the last 3 or 4 months, I've been consistently working on improving my skill set through online certification programs, podcasts, that kind of thing. So now you're getting a better candidate than if you actually phoned me 4 months ago.
Hello and welcome to the GYFT Show. My guest today is Conor Cunneen, known as the Irishman Speaks.
All right. Hi, John. Hi to everyone watching the show. Conor Cunneen, Irishman Speaks here, as you can see, is the brand. I've been based in the US and I've been working on my Chicago accent for about 21 years now, John. I nearly nailed it. But after coming over here, originally as Vice President of Marketing with Best Foods and then Unilever on the food service side, main brands would have been Hellmann's Mayonnaise, Lipton's Tea, etc. After I left them, I went out and did my own thing, initially some consulting, and then I morphed into Irishman Speaks. So now my mission is to improve people, performance and productivity with a smile. And in doing that, I speak to associations and corporations, primarily in the United States and Canada, helping those organizations to improve teamwork, collaboration and productivity with their people.
You started out in the fast-moving consumer goods sector in Ireland, and from there you worked in the UK, and eventually you progressed to the US.
How
would you differentiate the work environment, or how would you compare the work environment in Ireland vis-a-vis the UK and the US?
That's a very good question, John. It's not one I get asked very often. It was interesting. Ireland, grew up in and worked for 20 plus years in Ireland. With initially started off actually with being assistant brand manager on Murphy's Stout, which unfortunately you can't really get here, but I got a good substitute with Guinness, obviously. And after I left them, I went to the company that became Best Foods, Hellmann's Mayonnaise, North Soups and Sauces. I was the VP of Marketing or Marketing Director, as it would be in Ireland, as it was called. And then moved to the UK after I did what they considered a good job in Ireland. What I found, I suppose, as companies get bigger, the bureaucracy gets bigger, the more the requirement is to satisfy the boss's boss rather than your real boss, which is your consumer. And I found that particularly when I came to the States and after Unilever took us over, a wonderful company, but the level of bureaucracy there, which is really in a sense essential, I'm not knocking it. It does make it more difficult, I think, to have a real impact a lot of the time within your own personal environment, etc. The other thing, John, that really intrigued me was that when I came over here to the States first, I had this perception that everyone in the States works like crazy and that the Irish work ethic or the UK work ethic, where I was for a couple of years as well, was kind of meh compared to the US. I would say the Irish people work harder and longer than the US colleagues I had at the time. The difference is, I think, that people think that US people work for very long hours, but what they do is they tend to get up a bit earlier. So getting up at 5:30 in the morning wouldn't be a big deal for me anymore. In fact, one morning a week, I get up at 4:30 to go to a yoga class at 5:30. But that's not a big deal here, whereas in Ireland, that would be kind of, you're nuts. But what happens is the US people get up early, but then you go to a restaurant in some suburban area. I live just outside of Chicago. And what intrigued us was when we came over here first, we would go into a restaurant at 8 o'clock and it would be empty. We'd be saying, how does this place stay open? But what actually happened was that nearly everyone had come through the restaurant at that stage and it was just Deadsville after that. So no, they're extreme examples, but I've got to say that I have the utmost belief and confidence in the Irish work ethic, and there's so many Irish people here who are doing well. partly because of work ethic and partly because of good common sense as well.
And what made you decide to retire or to leave the FMCG market and to do something else in your own life?
Oh, retire is not a word I believe in, John, at all. What actually happened was that Best Foods, the company that brought me over here, I was VP of marketing with them. Unilever took us over after a couple of years, and I think a lot of your audiences probably do realize this, that acquisitions do have consequences. And after a number of years where I found I'm kind of an upbeat, idiosyncratic, creative Irishman, which is good, but also has some negatives associated with it. But what I found was that my culture and my kind of personality wasn't really gelling that particularly well with Unilever. They did offer me positions back in Europe, which for family reasons, I said no to. And eventually where it came to, as I tell people, Unilever told me get stuffed, I told them get stuffed, and we had mutual stuffing. But it was amicable. I left them, and I set out initially doing some consulting work in the food service side, providing information to clients in Ireland, UK, and the rest of Europe. And after a while, I got involved in Toastmasters just because I was kind of intrigued by it. I won some speech competitions in Toastmasters, and I also then, because I had been kind of separated from Unilever, I got involved working with people who were in job search. What happened, John, was that I combined the sales and marketing skills I had from my previous experience, presenting at conferences. I was being asked to speak at conferences quite a bit on my experience and being asked back, and I thought, hey, this is interesting. Combine that with winning some humorous speech competitions as well, and all of that eventually morphed into Irishman Speaks. So today, I run across, as I said previously, speaking to associations and corporations to improve people, performance, and productivity with a smile. But I also do a significant amount of work with people in job search. It's not an income stream for me. I've spoken to thousands over the years. I've written one book on staying sane, motivated, and productive during job search. And I actually, a few years ago, during Obama's presidency, I received the Presidential Gold Medal for volunteer service for the work that I do with people who are in job search. By the way, I never talk about people being unemployed when I'm speaking to anyone. It's people are in job search. There's a huge difference in the mindset between being unemployed and being in job search.
How did you cope in terms of family commitments moving between Ireland to the UK and to the US? How disruptive was that on your kids' education, and how do they settle into different environments?
It was a challenge. I mean, one of the interesting things about this, John, is the easiest part of this is actually on the executive who was moved, i.e. me in this case. Because what happened was you just told you're moving or asked, do you want to move? And when I was working in the UK, I was actually flying from Dublin Monday morning, come back on Thursday night or Friday. I was responsible for the Irish business as well. When we moved to the US, after we landed here kind of thing, the following Monday morning, I was in the office at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, whatever it was, and probably working until 7 or 8 o'clock at night. So almost back in the same kind of situation, but with different colleagues and comrades. And it's relatively easy to settle in. For my spouse and my 14-year-old daughter who came over, my son was doing some going to college in actually the UK, because that's where we plan to land. It was different. My wife wasn't able to get a work permit initially, so you just kind of got thumb twiddling like and wondering what do we do today. My daughter was 14 years of age, comes over with beautiful red Irish hair, lovely Irish accent, goes into a secondary school here, high school as they would call it, Catholic high school, at Christmas time, halfway through freshman year. And I dumped that poor child in, but she coped fantastically well with it as well. So it's worked out very well. But I mean, it is challenging. It's particularly challenging for families of the executive, I think, that has moved.
You've worked in a number of countries. You're an experienced business executive and coach. What advice would you give to a university graduate looking to move into the FMCG market?
I would say no matter what market they're in, John, is to understand the market and ask questions and keep asking questions. How does this work? Why has this happened? Who are the main competitors in the area, etc.? What way are consumers thinking? Why will someone be crazy on insisting I gotta have a Starbucks coffee while someone else is more than happy to take a McDonald's coffee first thing in the morning, etc.? What are the primary drivers in the marketplace? And that's what I do a lot when I'm doing my speaking engagements now as well. I mean, I work hard to understand the client. I work hard to understand the audience that's going to be there as well and what the requirements are, and then craft my message to that client or that audience so they'll walk away with some good insights as how they can improve people performance and productivity with a smile. And I know you're talking primarily about your gift audience. I mean, one of the critical things that the job seeker needs to do is to do good homework on their potential company before they go into the interview, so they can walk into the interview having very good insight into the company, and probably better insight into the company than if there's let's say an independent recruiter recruiting the initial stages. I do think that the candidate should be walking into that interview with good insight and walking out with the recruiter saying, crikey, that person knows more about the company than I do.
Great answer to a question. I was looking at your profile there on eSpeakers Marketplace a few weeks ago, and I want to touch on a personal issue here with you, which is your health issues. I think you fought cancer twice. Could you share that experience with the audience, please?
Yeah, John, I've had two bouts of cancer over the years. One was a thyroid cancer, which I had back in Ireland years ago, and then I came over here. I was diagnosed with prostate cancer a number of years back. Excuse me. So I had a prostate surgery. I had that removed now. Thankfully, touch wood, everything is okay. And in fact, the upside to that, John, is that because I am a dual cancer survivor, there is a very large marketplace here in the US for cancer survivorship meetings, oncology meetings, nursing, healthcare, etc. So I always speak quite a lot to these audiences about various topics, primarily about maintaining a good and positive attitude during difficult times, which again is relevant to the job seeker. And I now tell people that the line that actually gets me the engagement primarily with an event planner or if a nurse leader brings me and says, Conor, we're thinking of bringing in a speaker for our event. We have a quick chat. I tell them I've had two bouts of cancer, and then I tell them that having had a thyroidectomy and a prostatectomy, I now have an Irish condition known as there's not much left of me. So that brings a big smile on the other end of the phone. They say, oh, we'll have to bring you in. So silver linings can be found in a lot of areas. And for the job seekers, John, that you're trying to help now, I think that the job seeker needs to realize that there are silver linings right now. I mean, this isn't kind of goofball, motivational, foo-foo stuff now, but I mean, you should, as a job seeker, be able to increase and improve your skill sets while you're in the job search. So you can walk into the interview and say to your recruiter, and I really do believe this is important, I'm a better candidate now than the day I left my job, let's say 3-4 months ago. And the reason why is because in the last 3 or 4 months, I've been consistently working at improving my skill set through online certification programs, podcasts, that kind of thing. So now you're getting a better candidate than if you actually phoned me 4 months ago.
It's a very positive answer to a very serious question. So well done to you, Conor. What would you describe as being the biggest achievement in your life?
Biggest achievement in my life, having a happy family would be primarily it. I mean, I'm blessed. I've been living with my poor, long-suffering, darling wife from Cork City for my 43 years. As I say to people, 29 years of happy marriage, but, but actually no, 43 years of happy marriage. Thankfully, I'm blessed with that. Sort of reasonably good health. One of the great things about the job that I do, John, is all right, the last year and a half, our business was wiped totally. But at the same time, though, I allowed me to improve my skill set on Zoom and on video, which I was reasonably good at before, or raise it to a different level. I have been developing a couple of online programs that should be ready to go in the next few weeks as well. So the upside to the last year and a half, there are again some silver linings in that as well. But I do say that you've got to work on these things, and just because you want something to happen doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Looking over your business career and your career as a coach and professional speaker, what has been your greatest learning?
Greatest learning, I think, is treating people well. I think is the critical thing, because you don't know when you're going to need some advice and support, etc. And what I do, I speak a lot about employee engagement and treating people well. I've got a number of different concepts I talk about. One is an acronym based on the word CHAPS, CHAPS, where I basically put it to people that if you can take this CHAPS acronym, so C is for compliment someone each day, H is for hear the words thank you from someone each day, A, John, is about addressing people with their name on a consistent basis, P is for positive words or positive phrases at least every day, and S is about putting a smile in people's face. And I think if you can actually make someone feel good, whether you're in paid employment or you're in unpaid employment, which is what I refer to as job search as well, you're going to, if you can make someone feel good, it's going to come back to you in spades as well. You're going to get to be felt good as well at some stage, maybe on the spot or some other time you're speaking with people. But I think the important thing is to treat people well. It doesn't mean that my career I wasn't a jerk at some stage. In some situations, we're all human. But I really do try and live that mantra that I want people to be saying that the Irish guy is okay.
Question for you in terms of the job search work that you do. In terms of people who have been maybe high school dropouts, how do you convince them to better their lives and to upskill and go and get a good job for themselves?
Well, I think, John, the critical thing is to ask themselves, where would you like to be in 2 years' time? Are you happy with where you are now? If you are, well, there's not a lot I can do for you. But if you want to improve your situation, your financial situation, personal situation, or otherwise, there's probably certain things that you've got to do. And if you can identify where I would like to be in 2 years' time, let's do that first. Okay, so I'd like to be in a secure job that pays me a reasonable weekly wage or salary, etc. All right, visualize that. Now, what do I need to do to make that happen? And the answer is not going to be nothing. So what do I need to do to make that happen? Whatever you need to, whatever answers you come up with there, start implementing some of those activities, some of those goals. I talk a lot about the importance of micro goals. I put that CHAPS acronym in as a concept, treat it as a micro goal. So my micro goal today is to compliment someone. My micro goal today is to hear the words thank you from someone, etc. And if you treat them as a micro goal and you achieve the micro goal, as I said, the dopamine kicks in, you feel better about yourself. And maybe the person you're dealing with is going to feel better as well because you've complimented them or you've heard the words thank you from them because you've done something for them.
Question for you. Is the United States still a land of opportunity?
Oh, I'd say if you ask the guys who started, what's the Ellison brothers, are the guys from Limerick, the billionaire kids,
oh, yes.
Stripe, who started Stripe, they probably might say it's the land of opportunity. Yeah, I mean, it still is a land of opportunity. It's a very diverse society, John. If you're on the right side of the track here, things are wonderful. If you fall off between the cracks, or if you're on the wrong side of the track, it is not an equitable society. But for anyone who wants to come over here, work hard, has got good ideas. And the Americans do love the Irish, as soon as the Irish brogue is heard. I mean, I play deliberately to Irishman Speaks. That is the brand. And I tell some stories about my Irish heritage, sometimes slightly a little bit goofy. But at the end of the day, any people in Ireland who are interested in coming to the States, it's a wonderful place to work. It's got some pretty interesting political views, as you probably are aware as well. But overall, it's a great country to live in if you come over here with some skill sets and work ethic, which most Irish people do have. And there's a lot of Irish people who come over here without any serious education at all, who become very, very wealthy because they work hard, they satisfy their customers, and they know what their customers want as well.
You live close to or near Chicago. How has that city transformed, or been transformed, I should say, over the past 20 years? Because when I think of Chicago, I think of railroads, meat processing, industry. Is that still the case?
Right. Well, actually, this is the back road into Chicago here, John, as you can see. Now, Illinois, interestingly enough, this is kind of one of the intriguing things about the United States. Illinois is the state I live in, and Illinois is a bankrupt state. And no, not officially, but by any kind of measures of looking at a balance sheet, it's a bankrupt state. And the amazing thing is that some states in the United States have a really good balance sheets, others don't have. I was in Florida last week, which has got some interesting challenges as well, but it's a pretty successful state from a financial point of view. And you go to did a fair bit of driving around Florida last week. I was speaking down there and then took a few days vacation. But the motorways and roads in Florida are just pristine. Potholes, they couldn't spell the word pothole there. You drive into Chicago from here and you nearly need a kind of an RV or something like, or a JCB to get into Chicago with some of the potholes that we've got here. Now, again, this shows the inequity. The potholes are way worse in the poorer parts of Chicago, and the better parts of Chicago, they're not as bad, but they're there. So Chicago has, I'm not sure how much it's changed, John. In the perception, though, I think that you have is the one that I might have had 20 years ago. But I mean, Chicago was the commercial hub, the railways and the stockyards, etc. I think when people think of Chicago now, they don't think of that. They think it's a high-tech city. I mean, we've got a lot of the bigger companies in the United States actually headquartered here. There's a very good, more than two excellent universities in Chicago. There's a beautiful lakeshore. That is downtown Chicago is one of the prettiest cities in the whole wide world. And it's a wonderful city to visit. It's street, to me, it is streets ahead of New York and Manhattan.
And again, on the United States, I often hear people who've worked and lived in the United States say that one of the great things about that country is people can migrate, say, from New Jersey to California or to Texas in search of work. Is that still the case?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it is. I mean, within the United States, well, once you've got your work visa, etc., you can work anywhere in the United States. Totally different cultures, not necessarily in terms of work ethic. I would say that would be the same everywhere. But let's put it this way. Some people might have a perception of New York, you work in New York, etc. And Robert De Niro is the guy you're working beside and all of the F-bombs he's dropping, etc. And then you go down to, let's say, Tennessee, and Robert De Niro will be excommunicated and thrown out of the state because of all the F-bombs he's dropping, etc. So culturally, you've got to be very, very aware. I mean, there is a huge difference between what might be referred to as the liberal wing here in the United States and the conservative wing. So that would be the biggest challenge, I think, for people who might have this particular mindset. But overall, though, there's no difficulties moving from the state to state in terms of trying to find work.
And a final question on the United States. Do you think the politics in that country has become very divisive? over the last, say, 10, 15, 20 years?
I have no idea what you're talking about, John. No idea. It's sad. I mean, it's broken up friendships. Apparently, it's broken up families as well, and it's something that is a long way from being sorted out. Because I think what is happening is that so many people just take extreme views. They don't look at other people's ideas, and it's a pretty sad situation now. The problem is that the politicians' main goal is to get re-elected, despite what they say, and that's the same in every single country. And to get re-elected here now in the United States, particularly if you are a GOP, they've got this primary system where you've kind of got to get elected by your party before you can actually, the party will put you forward. And whatever way you look at it, whatever your feelings are, the Trump group has got so much power within most of those situations that unless you show yourself to be a pro-Trump or even more pro-Trump than the other person who's pro-Trump but not as pro-Trump as you are, you're not going to get that primary vote. The long-term problem, I think, for the GOP is that they're going to be putting up so many people who are extreme that I think the certain areas which are kind of, we might call them purple, it's kind of a mix between red and blue states, will get tired of that level of extremity. And all you need is for 2 or 3% of people to move against you in the overall vote, and you lose your seat. So, but it's dreadful the way it goes at the moment. But it goes down to the bottom line: the politicians' main goal is to get re-elected.
What does the future hold for Conor Cunneen?
Well, John, let's review this in 25 years' time. When I'll be up there in space again with Jeff Bezos. Some people already say I'm spaced out, but anyway. Basically, what I do is I just love my work. The word retire is one I can't spell, to be honest with you. I never want to be able to spell it. Because the kind of work that I do, I mean, it does get to be a bit of pain in the butt at times, like just going to the airport once every single week kind of thing, and having all these challenges with that. And no matter how used you are to it, one of the advantages of what's come through in the last year and a half with COVID is that there are going to be a lot of hybrid meetings and a lot of virtual events going forward, at least for the next 4 or 5 years. It may morph back into almost the situation we had pre-COVID. But the advantage there is that I feel that I can continue working for another 25, 30 years almost, doing these kind of activities, as well as actually doing some on the road activity. The other thing is that I want to launch these 2 online programs over the next couple of weeks. One of them is, I've written 2 books on Mark Twain, and one of them is titled, the program based on one of my books is What Mark Twain Can Learn You for Public Speaking. And in that one, I've taken the Mark Twain name, 9 letters, and created 9 lessons around Mark Twain's speeches and writings, etc., about public speaking, connecting with your audience. And the other program I do, I'm ready to launch, is one called Adding Humor to Your Presentation. And I would hope to be able to launch those, get reasonable sales revenue, etc., out of it. And then hopefully keep the fingers crossed everything goes well on the family side, and we all stay healthy and well. My daughter here in the United States, my son back in Dublin as well, and everyone continues to prosper and go forward. And of course also the Manchester United win the Premier League.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay.
So I've now lost most of the rest of the group, but hey, I talk about understanding your audience. You United fans will understand this.
Yeah. I know what you're saying there. Yes,
yeah.
Indeed. I thought you might have talked about American football or basketball, which are very big in the United States. And the Major League Soccer, of course, is gathering momentum now.
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, I really enjoy American football. Although I'm not a Bears fan, actually I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, to be honest with you. But basketball never really get into. Baseball postseason I really enjoy. But tomorrow, my brother's in from New York. We're going to go and see the Cubs play. Not because I'm a Cubs fan, but they've got the most wonderful, intimate stadium that you would ever go to. The atmosphere and the vibe is absolutely incredible. And what they do is they create a great brand experience, and maybe not necessarily in the results they achieve sometimes, but it's just a really good vibe and a fun atmosphere. So we're going there tomorrow.
Have you got a gift for the audience today?
Do I have a gift for the audience? Nothing in terms of actual physical giveaways as such, John, but just a couple of thoughts for them. I will put together a short little playlist for your team and your audience on Irishman Speaks, which we can, I'll give you the details of it later on. And for those of you who are in job search, what I would say to you is, in terms of the job search activity that you are doing, I've spoken there about the brand experience, etc. That has been really important. And I think the thing for you in job search to remember is that the recruiter, like every other one else, buys brand. They buy something that they feel comfortable with. They buy something that they connect with. It's not what's actually done on your resume. So what I would say to people in terms of the job search, John, is that before they go into the interview, know what is the brand experience that they want to create. And what do I mean by that? By that, I mean that before you go into the interview, know the 3 words that you want the recruiter to say about you after you leave the interview. The 3 words that recruiter is an independent recruiter, when they're selling you up to the next level, what are the 3 things that they will say about you after they've spoken with you? And this goes back to having clear goal and vision. If you don't know what you want them to say about you, you're not going to have much chance of actually being able to frame that interview to the way that you want it to be framed and get the kind of positive result out of it that you are hopeful for.
In summary, what you're saying here today, Conor, is for people who are in job search, they need to have an idea where they want to be in 2, 3, 4, 5 years' time. They need to identify what are the skill gaps that's preventing them from moving from point A, where they are now, to achieving their goal. And they need to close those skill gaps, and they need to take action themselves. They're responsible for their own lives. And it's up to them to put the work in. People like yourself or myself are there to coach, help, and guide them, but they must take responsibility for their own futures. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in your situation, John, with the executives and the team you've got in Ireland, where you can bring a real benefit to them is that you can't do this on your own, the job search. I mean, it can be the loneliest place in the world. And for a lot of job seekers, they accentuate that by not looking for other support, or they just get into themselves, which is totally natural, but it's not the best way to find a job. So with you and your skill set, etc., being able to coach them or mentoring them or being a hard taskmaster, which job seekers do need sometimes, that's the kind of thing that can make a difference to them as well.